I'm here at the Build Propulsion Lab. I'm Brian Demers, and with me today is Hakkim Alavudeen. And today we're going to talk about the conference and how going to conferences is a great way to share ideas as we're wrapping up the DPE Summit 2024. So Hakkim, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, thank you, Brian. I'm Hakkim. I'm head of platform engineering at Zalando, which is Europe's largest online fashion store. And thank you for having me.
Great. Well, yeah, welcome. So again, I really like your sort of a take on this. So how conferences are important, and it's a great way to share ideas. I go to a lot of events. My favorite part of conferences is the hallway track, right? And it's very much like this, where you talk to people and you share a lot of ideas anyway. And obviously, the whole point of giving talks, listening to talks, is to learn. So tell us about what you're thinking.
Yeah, so for me, at Zalando, when we were starting out, the DP field is so overwhelming, right? I mean, just from the three productivity models, the most popular ones, Fedora, Space, and DevX, we have a total of 60 DPE KPIs, right? So this can be overwhelming for someone or for an organization that's just venturing into DPE. But I think these conferences, they represent a good repository of the best practices or of the ideas that have, that are kind of in vogue and that people are finding as efficient and have been tried and tested in the field. So I started to think that maybe, conferences like this are a good opportunity to curate the best of these ideas and to then eventually create a sort of a radar, a DevX radar akin to the ThoughtWorks radar.
I think that's an amazing idea. So I think there's lots of us, including us, that would love to help out with that.
Yeah.
So DPE is still kind of new, or at least kind of the practice, the research. I mean, there's new research papers coming out all the time. Some folks from Stanford just talked about their research today. So what is your idea? How would you, I guess, start? So there's a lot of companies that haven't even got into even thinking about productivity in this way. How would you recommend they start?
Yeah. So that's actually part of what my talk was about, is how do you get started when you have this overwhelming amount of information? And for us, what we tried to do was to create a simple mental model that we could then transpose on top of any other developer productivity model, right? And that is to really treat the development process as a black box software development factory. So you got the inputs and outputs that are like Jira specifications or product feature specifications. And they flow into this black box, this product factory black box, and out comes tangible products and features. And then the third dimension is the developer, and this is the affective dimension, or how the developer perceives this entire experience, right? And I think that's a good way to get started. So the idea is that you have these three buckets, right? The value of work, the actual development execution engine, and you have the affective, the affective perception about the workflow. And the way we started is to then try to identify your top 3 pain points, right? One across each of these buckets. And you do that very simply by putting out developer surveys to your builder workforce.
Yeah, I love the idea of surveys, right? Sometimes they're, what are you complaining about? Or what's slow? Or are you happy? Right? And those get mixed reviews, I think, sometimes. So do you have any specific recommendations on conducting the surveys?
I mean,
or at least your initial one, maybe?
For me, it's always that you want to try to limit surveys, both how often you do them, but also the length of each surveys, right? You want to try to keep them, and you want to try to do them in situ where possible, right? So if you have tooling that can sort of that can allow you to monitor development process, then you know that you might be able to identify what is the right moment to bring up a question to say, hey, to prompt the user and say, hey, was this, was this a good experience? What was this like for you, right? Was this build a good experience or not, right? So if you don't have that level of sophistication, and I think, try to keep it simple and be very, starting out, hey, what are your biggest 3 pain points, and I'd recommend keeping it very simple and short.
I think that's great. So you must have some tooling that you were able to prompt your developers to get feedback?
We didn't have any toolings when we started out, but now we are sort of working on tooling. I don't know if you're part of if you attended the Meta session, I think it was from Kareem, where they talk about these bots, these balance bots that they've installed, that sort of So we want to kind of build bots like that and to try to request feedback at the right moment. Yeah.
That's an excellent idea. I really like that. So can you share, you don't have to, don't feel any pressure, but can you share one of your top pain points that you had originally?
Yeah, well, so I can share 3 actually. So or maybe I'll just share one because the other 2 you could find in the talk to keep this simple. But when we talk about the black box, the development engine, what we find is that for most people, especially in the mobile field, build time tends to be the most painful thing. So, and very predictably, this is what we found also to materialize.
We can relate. We talk a lot about build time here at Gradle, so I can relate. So that's great. So bringing this back to the conference, though. Mm-hmm. So in sharing ideas, what do you think your biggest kind of takeaway from this event or other events, talks, research that you've read recently about DPE are?
So this time, unlike other times, the sort of, I felt like the pioneers are starting to be a bit more grounded and say, hey, we don't have all the answers. This is not the best model, or maybe there isn't such a thing as the best model, that every model is wrong in some way, but it's good for a particular case, right? So I really, that point of view or that perspective was emphasized in quite a few talks by some prominent speakers. So I really appreciated that. Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, Hakkim. Well, I want to thank you for coming to both the Build Propulsion Lab and the DPE Summit. And I think we're going to wrap up the event. So once again, you're welcome back next year, right? I hope you come.
Hope
and we'll see everyone next time on the Build Propulsion Lab. Thank you.